Hello and welcome back. I am Pain User,
And I'm Cat's Pajamas.
and we have game two for you guys between Six Jacks Coco and White Raw, the one, the only, sponsored by Duckload. And White Raw winning game one in a pretty convincing fashion, but a little bit of a controversial GG followed by has left the game.
Yeah. I mean, just briefly to recap, I think we're in agreement. White Raw was way ahead. He was going to be able to reinforce better. He was going to be able to keep up the pressure. But we've agreed weirder things have happened. Coco could have had an opening. He catches those units out of position, destroys that, and steamrolls a couple of production bases or something like that.
All it takes
Who
is
knows?
one really good engagement, one flawless engagement where you just absolutely crush your opponent. And in StarCraft 2, I mean, in Brood War, I think things would have been a little different right there. But in StarCraft 2, battles happen so quickly, and there's so many minute little things that determine how much you win that battle by.
Right.
So if you hit a few great EMPs, if he had utilized Cloak in one of those battles a little bit better than the first time he attempted to, where he accidentally shot a stalker and blew the whole operation.
Right.
Don't know exactly how that happened. Maybe just right-clicked on one of the stalkers accidentally, but that triggered White Raw to immediately attack, burn all of his storms, and well, he absolutely crushed that push.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll see what both players have for us in store here in game number 2. Looks like Coco has actually bypassed gas for quite a while now, and up to 14 supply with just the barracks coming down, so more than likely some sort of a one-rack fence.
Nope.
Well, no, just going for a late gas. We just saw the rally point there on the SCV, so just a 15 gas coming up.
Once again, we see that from him. I believe he did that in the first game, or it might have been a
Just a
late
very
14
late, yeah.
gas. So opting for a little bit of extra minerals before he gets the gas down. I don't really have a problem with that. It will delay any kind of Reaper or Marauder just by a little bit, but not the most important thing in the world to get that out a couple seconds earlier because, Reapers used to be so much more effective way back in the day before people
right.
realized exactly how to deal with them. Keep units in the proper position, make sure you have the Zelnaga towers so you can see them coming. I mean, players are so much more well-versed in dealing with Reapers now that it's not nearly as big of an issue. And we do have a scout returning for White Raw right now. White Raw still has not been scouted by Coco. Coco actually heading up to the top position and will make his way down to White Raw's base in a little bit. And once again, he is opening with that quick Reaper, and he will most likely be following this up with an expansion. The only question is whether or not he's going to drop it at the low ground or the high ground, and just how safe he wants to be.
And it looks like he is going to put that on the high ground, but in a position that it's very, very easy to drop it onto the low ground. Won't take a whole lot of time. Looks like an SCV does manage to make its way into the base. Not going to see anything terribly out of the ordinary. Ooh, White Raw actually throwing down second gas there. Was that scouted? Yes, it was. Just barely scouted by that SCV, so he is going to be aware of the presence of a second gas. White Raw actually putting up a second gateway right away as well. Curious to see how this makes Coco respond to this. He does have his Reaper coming out.
And
now,
if you notice, the Reaper coming out so late is because if we go to Coco's vision and look at his main, he actually scouted out his entire Coco's vision. He scouted out his entire main, looking for proxy pylons all around the edges of his base, checked around his natural as well, and that is just some very thorough scouting, really utilizing that early Reaper, and I actually love that from him. You're not going to get that Reaper in there and do a ton of damage anyway, and looks like he will be able to deny the natural, well, the probe anyway, that's going to be building the Nexus at the natural, and with that odd timing on the Reaper, White Raw probably not expecting that, going to send another probe out here, but that Reaper will be able to head back to the Zelnaga towers now. Hopefully he doesn't lose it to this Stalker, needs to get it up on that cliff immediately, turning to the left right there, and it looks like he still will be able to get out just barely, probably going to head back to his main through the top of the map.
and I will note as well, folks, that this is old Shakura's Plateau, so we do have destructible rocks at the back. These Zelnaga towers are not completely surrounded by bushes. They are also much farther away from each other. So just interesting things to note as we move into this game, if you guys were curious about the map selection. And Duckload Raw now does have 3 gates going into a robo facility. Once again, this build virtually mirroring what we saw last game, only this time with a higher sentry count to be able to force field this ramp in the event of any sort of units coming by. And it looks like Coco goes ahead and pokes back in with that Reaper, does manage to steal another probe kill and gets himself right away. This Stalker on an intercept course and may actually catch up, and poor Reaper is going to die.
Poor guy. Well, his life was brief, but he did manage to take out 2 probes with him. Not quite. Well, I'd say he paid for himself in the amount of time that he denied that natural expansion, and just picking off that extra probe is, why not? I'll take it.
Yeah.
So he's got that.
That's right.
And
yep.
he did lose the Reaper. I would have liked to seen him, get that Reaper out of there and control the Xel'Naga towers, but you can't always do that. And it looks like Coco is going to do this timing push here off of 3 racks. I'm not sure if this is going to be able to inflict any kind of damage. He does not have Stim at only about 10% right now, and we do have a bunch of Zealots and Sentries from White Raw. Hopefully White Raw doesn't lose this Stalker, though. Definitely going to want to keep that alive, and it looks like he is going to get that out of there just in time. Coco trying to split off a Marauder and intercept that Stalker, but not going to work out. And Coco wisely sending his units back to his natural. Really wasn't going to accomplish anything with that push timing, and he is, however, teching up relatively quickly here. We do already have a starport on the way, so Coco is going to be able to do some early drops, and drops are very, very effective on a map like Shakuras.
And White Raw already going up to that Rover Bay again, so White Raw's build, like I said, almost mirroring what he did last time, but we do see the Warp Prism this game around, and that's kind of what I was waiting for in the last game, but there it is. Warp Prism making its way out. Coco, on the other hand, with a much more Marauder-heavy composition, went for 3 racks before, or did 3 racks before factory instead of 4. Looks like he does manage to pick off the Observer that was flying around as well. So he does manage, or he does go for a much more Marauder-heavy composition, going to his Engineering Bay a lot earlier as well. So he's going to have a pretty powerful little army to start the game, but he is going to be, I don't know. I mean, this is going to be interesting. He's investing in tech more. I think his unit composition is a little bit better, but White Raw has pretty much been able to do his build at will once again, even going to that double forge.
Well, the thing is if you want to push at this timing before the Colossus come out, you're going to actually want a Marine-heavy composition. When the Marauder-heavy composition is so important is once those Colossus are out on the field and the numbers are starting to go beyond 1 and 2. Up until that point, having a much heavier Marine composition is actually really good. So maybe you wanted to flip the builds from last game to this game, get the Marauders much earlier in the last game, and get the Marines he had in the previous game for right now, because if he had a very heavy Marine composition right now, he could do a pretty effective push, but it looks like he's going to push in the front and try and drop in the main at the same time. I don't know if this is going to work out for him, though. White Raw with great positioning, going to warp in some units at the main and try and deal with this drop.
Yep, absolutely, and those units were going right after the gateway, so they actually haven't done any damage yet. Now they're going to try and come at the pylon. They'll take that down, and at the same time, they're moving through the front, and this is actually going to take quite a bit out of White Raw here to hold this off. This is a lot of units here. He's not really engaging effectively, just moving all of his units through a choke. A Colossus is just about to pop itself out, though, but at what cost? Looks like Coco is going to be able to take down one base. He overstims his units a little bit, so those are all very weak. And this Colossi will be able to clean it up. And beautiful
what great
force
fields right there.
Oh my god, trapping all those units in the back and trapping some more with Warped and Zealots at the front. Is this Nexus going to go down?
He needs to keep that Nexus alive so bad.
The Nexus down to 17 points, and it does die.
Oh my goodness. White Raw taking a huge hit right there. A Nexus goes down. Several probes go down. Losing a majority of his army. Keep in mind, Coco did lose a majority of his army as well, but not nearly as big of a deal. Wow, that was such... Ooh, we did have some Zealot harassment going on, possibly at the same time.
Let's actually take a look, and no, it looks like that was actually seen at first. Those